Philosophy. What new insight has philosophy firmly established within society? In continuing the philosophy section of this material, we move to early Christian philosophy, and at this point in philosophical emergence, as far as philosophical schools of thought are concerned, this is perhaps where there's a fork in the road, and philosophy and theology make a split, and they become rather schismatic. Not that philosophical theology wasn't emerging as well, rather different schools of theology made a split from philosophy, although not all of them. What does the conceptual framework of early Christian philosophy have to offer us? The Christian era in philosophy lasted until about the 1400s. Philosophy came to depend more and more on reason and became separated from theology. Faith and reason became separate concepts as well, unfortunately. Religious leaders did not accept reason as a proper criterion for religious truths. World Book Encyclopedia, page 349. Ancient philosophy provided our species with a unique concept, the idea of using philosophy to fuse our intuitive perceptions of faith with perceptions developed through observation. And perhaps this is where philosophical theology first became known. Ancient philosophy opened up the door to the developing of a unified view, a universal philosophy, which would be an ongoing, ever-changing view based upon faith and observation fused with reason, religion, science, and philosophy. It was understood that this model would undergo constant revision or reformation as we have expanded our knowledge and understanding. Ancient philosophy was in the process of fusing knowledge we gained from science and religion with philosophy. Up until this time, the majority of the world separated these three from each other. Until the time of ancient philosophy, perceptions we had of our significance were generated by the strongest of the three at any particular point in time. And these influences seem to fluctuate as well, depending on which era or time we are speaking of. As such, our perception of our significance for existing was analyzed in terms of one or of the other three, not in terms of the overall, bigger picture. Where metaphysics and ontology merge. No particular model was able to captivate our total enthusiasm as a species and as individuals. People were very preferential. The ancient philosophy direction of developing a unified view would not last long. Violently subdued and suppressed by early Christian philosophy. Once again, history was to repeat itself and to reestablish the concept that the strongest survive. Religion, being stronger at that particular point and more influential than science and philosophy, demonstrated its dominance over the other two. A unified view was repressed for another 1,500 years. Early Christian philosophy was attempting to offer us significance for existing, but instead found itself offering us an existence within a physical reality located outside a causative force, or altogether outside of a static creator. We were about to be defined as being located within what was considered to be an inconceivable, abstract void of some sort. What did the conceptual framework of early Christian philosophy imply about the universe within which we live? Philosophy came to depend more and more on reason and logic. Faith then became considered to be more and more, as time went on, to be irrational, unreasonable, unfortunately. Philosophy depended more on reason and became separated further and further from theology. As a result, as it became less able to cope with the relentless questioning of the logic of its dogmas. So in that turn, theology became dogmatic, authoritarian in nature, hierarchical, organized, if you will. Some would say disorganized. The universe was about to be dissected and examined in terms of its parts, rather than as a whole. Science, religion, and philosophy were about to conduct intensive, independent examinations of reality, the individual or soul, and a larger reality. Reason is only one of the three means we have of establishing what it is we think we are and why we exist. Reason and observation, or philosophy and science, have been rejected for centuries as a means of developing legitimate perceptions of what the universe was and why it existed. Religion claimed to be the sole means of answering these questions. Perhaps religion is merely reaping what it sows, as is science and philosophy. Perhaps the idea that they are in a competition is a fallacy in and of itself. Early Christian philosophy, believing deeply in faith, rejected mainstream science, in order to preserve dogmas of faith from having to undergo any radical change or reform. The natural state of all things in the universe is change. Everything changes. And this particular idea seems to go contrary to that, and so we have the split. Fearing what religions could do to us, philosophy was rejected in order to avoid the eternal flames of hell doctrine. Reason, or philosophy and observation, science, had been beaten back so completely by early Christian philosophy that they were barely visible in society. Later, as science and philosophy timidly emerged, they naturally shied away from religion and each other. The religious oppression and intimidation of the past left its mark. Science and philosophy were about to emerge and grow in a vacuum. All three, philosophy, science, and religion, were about to become completely separate entities from each other. Instead of them working together and cooperating to help us understand what life is and its significance, as ancient philosophy had attempted to do at one point, they were to shy away from each other in order to avoid intruding upon each other's turf. But we are at a point of transition once again, as new paradigms emerge. The avoidance of intruding upon each other, in many ways the idea of a separation of powers, constitutionally speaking, was not to be established out of respect, but out of fear. Early Christian philosophy dominated society and refused to return to a unified view. In this sense, as they independently grew, they became more and more orthodox and imperialistic in nature. For the next 1500 years, the task of building a unified view to better understand what the universe is and why we exist within it would be avoided like the plague. A unified view of reality and life would be one of the few things to remain in the Dark Ages. How did the concept of early Christian philosophy reinforce the concept of Panentheism? The universe was a physical entity, and God, or the causative force, was an abstract being or entity. Together, they would rationally create a whole, a summation of the parts. But religion within early Christian philosophy was not about to surrender any of its turf and acknowledge such a concept. Science, being what we saw, was not recognized as an authorized means to understand our universe, let alone our significance within it. if what we saw was not an acceptable means by which we would gain insight into the causative force, or the cause of everything, or God, then there was no way reason was to be treated any differently. So it was that panentheism was about to be not just ignored, but intentionally confined within a box. This innocuous box would be placed in storage for thousands of years. This box, Pandora's box, was to rest upon the shelves of the taboo. Why would panentheism, the concept of a causative force, or God, being so large that she was truly omnipresent, fully omnipresent, and not an abstract? How could that be so threatening to early Christian philosophy? The reasons are too numerous to list in this matrix. However, a brief examination may be interesting, considering religion's adamant position regarding the sanctity of an omnipresent characteristic for a causative force, while at the same time rejecting the idea of the universe being located within the causative force, or God. An absolute rejection of the location of the universe being within the causative force was and is necessary if one is to keep control of the keys that unlock the gate, allowing entrance into the causative force, or God. Control of these keys grants the power to gain and keep control of who will and who will not enter into the gate of God, or causative force. By definition, panentheism would automatically place all life, you and I, within the causative force, or what religions have called God. No one could keep out or keep us out of eternity. No group could prevent another group from entering. No one religion could prevent any other from entering. Panentheism says we exist in the universe, which in turn is within any entity that is all present, omnipresent, not partially or abstractly, but fully omnipresent. By religious definition, this is the causative force, or God. Through its absolute resolve to crush ancient philosophical concepts of a unified theory uniting science, philosophy, and religion, and to suppress panentheism through a conscious process of reducing it to an unknown state of existence, early Christian philosophy brings to mind Shakespeare's statement, "Methinks thou dost protest too much." Why does early Christian philosophy, and how does it reinforce about the significance of existence, life? Early Christian philosophy rejected the concept of omnipresence while professing to believe in it. All the while, however, this philosophy adamantly held on to the concept of the significance of life. The concept of the individual processing a quality known as eternal existence was a fundamental premise of early Christian philosophy. This was a complex issue, and the scholars of the day were unable to determine a rational reason to explain it. If the scholars were unable to explain the rationale for such a model, how could one expect the common individual to do so? Since we had no conception regarding the reason why life existed, our only alternative was to rely upon someone to tell us why eternal life must be. We as a species, as individuals, find it hard to give up hoping. As such, we accepted the process of letting others tell us why we existed. We sought out the most logical source of hope. We sought out faith, belief, and religion. Thus, it was that religion was once again able to provide a model explaining the significance of life. Western and Middle Eastern religions built upon a model based upon the separation of good and evil, dualism, built upon the separation of a heaven and hell, based upon the separation of the universe and the causative force. It is altogether a partial theistic theology of separation, a complete separation of man from God. So it was that omnipresence grew over atheism, a causative force not existing, says the atheist, and over pantheism, a causative force is the same or equal in size as the universe. Western Middle Eastern religions expanded the causative force to a size larger than the universe, but not large enough to have the universe located within it. God grew, but maintained the potential to grow even more. Behavior improved, but maintained the potential to improve even more. Significance of life grew, but maintained the potential to become even more significant. Life gains significance each time we increase the size of God, or a causative force. As such, it would seem only logical that we would want to increase our understanding of the size and or location of the causative force to the greatest possible size we are capable of generating. Today, we have advanced science to the point of understanding the possibility of our universe perhaps having a boundary. The implication is that our universe may have an outside and therefore may in fact be located within something.